New developments out of Nigeria tonight, where authorities say 8 more girls have been kidnapped by a terrorist group loosely linked to Qaeda. Now, these latest abductions, they come on the heels of another kidnapping that happened last month. Nearly 300 girls were taken from their boarding school at bedtime. More than 20 female U.S. senators, including Senators Susan Collins of Maine and Barbara Mikulski of Maryland, they're calling on the administration to take action. Tonight, U.S. military has offered to help in the search. President Obama called the kidnappings of 300 schoolgirls in Nigeria heartbreaking, and he said the U.S. is now sending help, intelligence, and law enforcement support to find those missing girls.
This may be the event that helps to mobilize the entire international community to finally do something against this horrendous organization that's perpetrated such a terrible crime.
That organization is Boko Haram. It's a terrorist group known as Nigeria's Taliban. They're loosely affiliated with Al-Qaeda and believe Western education is a sin. This is their leader, bragging about the kidnappings. "I took your girls. They are our slaves," he said. "I will sell them in the market." This girl managed to escape. She described that terrifying night when men dressed in military uniforms arrived at their boarding school.
"We thought they were soldiers, and they asked us to board a vehicle which was headed towards Damboa, and my friends and I jumped from the vehicle."
Reporter Alexis Okio, she spoke to a girl who got away.
When the men start shooting their guns in the air and they start yelling, "God is great" in Arabic, the girls start realizing, wow, we're not with the military anymore.
Officials say it's likely that some of the kidnapped girls have already been moved across the border into Nigeria's neighboring countries, Niger and Chad, and have been sold into marriage. The kidnappings continue to gain steam on social media. The hashtag #BringBackOurGirls has now been used over 1 million times. Political and pop culture celebrities are calling for action. Even Malala, the young Pakistani girl shot by the Taliban, weighing in. And obviously, as the world watched, the questions at dining room tables said, what are we waiting for? Why do we let some thug like this literally take children from school, girls from school, for the crime of trying to get an education, and then do it again and then mug in front of the cameras while the world just watches? Hey, Richard, you're former military yourself. And I know we're going to get into a poll in a second that I think speaks to this. There's not an apathy, but a disinterest for the U.S. to play policeman around the world or to get involved in international conflicts, probably from fatigue from Afghanistan or Iraq. But it's also not as simple as that when you're talking about sovereign land, right?
No, well, certainly you have to be invited in by the government to help with them. And as the president mentioned, that the U.S.'s military is going to get involved. Now, this is not the National Guard searching for somebody or getting sandbags and building them up for a flood. This is the U.S. military overseas.
And you're talking special forces.
You're talking special forces involvement here, and certainly a threat. Like Dr. King said, threat to justice here is a threat to justice everywhere. So when you talk about the Nigerian Taliban, this is a terrorist organization, and if you let them get away with this, who knows what happens next? So you have to stop this movement from growing. So there's no doubt I think we'll see some type of action and this resolved pretty quickly.
Do you think if this wasn't Africa, if this happened, let's say in Europe or in Australia or in South America, that we would be as not inured to it as much, but we would say, oh, that's a shame? Or do you think action would be different if it happened somewhere else in the world?
I just think that while it's horrible what's going on there, that the U.S. can't police the world. I mean, you can't police every injustice that occurs throughout the world. We don't have enough soldiers to spread that.
We're not talking about starting a war here. Let's not elevate some ragtag bunch of thugs in Nigeria.
That's exactly what they are.
They are ragtag thugs. But what happens when 2 Navy SEALs are killed in terms of trying to carry out this mission? What happens then?
We'd like to think that it wouldn't happen maybe in Europe or in other parts of the world, but let's be honest, our foreign policy is dictated on a whole other set of circumstances. If this happened in Saudi Arabia, we wouldn't do anything because we need them too much. If this happened in Southeast Asia, or if this happened in Africa as it did, we probably don't care.
You make it sound like this is a question of will. We should get ourselves willing to do something, and we'll do something. what do you do? I mean, the notion that you can send military in there, assassinate a couple of criminals, and somehow this will free 220 young girls, you may kill them. This is you can't do this with muscular talk. And shouldn't we just get involved? Some of these things, the cure is worse than the illness. Yeah. And the notion that this is a lack of will on the part of the United States is a dangerous, dangerous idea.
Right now on Capitol Hill, every female member of the U.S. Senate has asked the U.S. government to take an active role. So the idea that there is including members on the Armed Services Committee, and the idea that we can't do anything isn't an opinion that's universally shared.
We have done things. We've set up strategic alliances with other countries to police the waters around Africa, around the Horn of Africa, especially when you had Somalian pirates taking control of international ships. So when there is a vested interest, we do take military action.
You take military action when you think it has a chance of being effective. Dealing with pirates on little boats in the Horn of Africa is one thing. Dealing with 250 hostages leaves you make the wrong move and there are dead children there. Everybody calm down. Our anger and our sense of something ought to be done is not a tactic. It's an attitude.
Would be successful and stable nation states in some of these areas where there have not been. I mean, the borders and the governments in these countries are incredibly fluid and have been for a long time. I'm not sure how you get there, but if you have a stable environment politically, then you have a police force that would be able to stop this, or be able to go find them themselves.
We need to put that on a list of environments, because for many years, because of economic means, most of the African nations have been unstable.
This made an interesting transition. We're going to go from Nigeria to the Port Authority. When we come back, she was 2 steps removed from Chris Christie during Bridgegate, but today showed a different story than the governor on the key parts of the scandal, what she said and why investigators say it has given them much more to go on. We'll get into that after this.